and welcome everyone to the Oregon Black Artist Spotlight Series. I'm Andrea from West African Cultural Arts Institute, and we're so happy that you tuned in and persevered. From now until the end of November, WACAI will be posting blogs, pictures, links to our social media to spotlight 7 artists on the Oregon Folklife Network's Culture Keeper roster. Please check that out on Facebook, Instagram, and at westafricanculturalartsinstitute.org. All right, tonight we have a fabulous multimedia artist from Mali, Baba Wague Diakite. We'll bring you in a second, Baba, hang on. But first, I wanted to tell everybody about next week. We'll be doing another live stream, Thursday, October 22nd at 7 p.m. right here on Facebook Live off of the West African Cultural Arts Institute page. And we'll be interviewing and listening to the percussive music of father and son team Papa and Alcine Yansane from Guinea. So please check us out next week too. Also, I wanted to just hope that the series will help folks take action to learn more about Black history, culture, and social issues. So please check out these artists that are being featured and learn as much as you can, and to help support their lives and the work that they're doing. All right, so without further ado, we wanted to bring in our guest. Baba, would you mind introducing yourself?
Yes, indeed. My name is Baba Wague Diakite. I am an artist, and I am an illustrator, children's book writer, a muralist, and I do so many different arts, and surface designer as well for mudcloth, on the line of mudcloth. I grew up in a very small town in Mali, West Africa. My grandparents were storytellers, and they were farmers, basically. And in my family tradition, children have to go back to their native villages to learn about their families. And in that manner, that's how I found myself amongst many cousins in the village. And my grandmother used to say, quote, "You are not going to school unless you are educated." And I guess that will be confusing in today's lifestyle. However, what my grandmother meant is we need to learn how to wash our hands properly, which was so important to be a part of a large community. As you may know, many African countries are open societies. Open societies mean that we do most of our activities outside. Cooking, entertaining, the room is basically for sleeping. So it is the opposite of what we have here in the West. So therefore, every week, because my grandparents were farmers, everybody has large farms, and we help them in their rice and peanut fields during daytime, and evening to please us. We will all sit around the campfire waiting and pay my grandmother to come out and share some wisdom. That was the excitement every night. And the stories my grandmother will say were diverse type of stories. Sometimes it's about nature, moon, sky, rock, you name it. But to me, as a young person, this was like my first introduction to a movie theater, because some of the stories were funny, some of them were scary, and some of them were based on plain learning. And definitely the stories help us live in harmony, not only with ourselves, but with our surrounding nature. And my grandmother, this was very important to my grandparents because they lived through the colonization, the colonization era. And they know 400 years of colonization really was beginning to disconnect us from our history. our pre-colonial ancestors' way of life. And this was very worrisome to their generations. So therefore, it was important for her to have all the grandchildren and, to be the connector between us and our pre-colonial lifestyle. And so that is the reason I went to the village. That's the reason many youngsters back in the 60s were sent back to their villages so to be educated in such a manner. And at that time, it was difficult as a young person to be separated from your parent to go to the village. And most importantly, my grandmother, when she said that you have to be educated before you go to school, I didn't know the meaning of that, But now in my adult age, I know my adult life now, I know exactly what they meant. It's so important to share our history and get to know where we come from first. And I have to say today, without the traditional way of education, I would not be the artist I am today. So I owe it all from my grandparent and the people of my village of who I am today. But stories were not told just because they were funny entertainment, just because they were fun, like going to the movies. They had purpose. And stories, first of all, the first thing that you notice in storytelling, most things are metaphors, and there's a lot of personification. I know in today's life, when we talk about animal stories, people don't resonate themselves with it. They feel that, oh, it's a bear or it's a rabbit. But those bears and rabbits are actually representing human beings. It's almost like a human being also is giving voice to those animals. So it goes back and forth. So sadly today I see a lot of people think that stories are just funny entertainment. And this was not just African history. Storytelling is a worldwide history. I mean, from ancient Europe to anywhere in the world. One of the way that people have always come together and get to know each other is through storytelling and greeting. Greeting was also very important. Yeah. So, and that's the beginning of my artistic life before I moved back to the big city.
Thank you,
So,
Baba, for that. And that's a beautiful homage to your grandma. So important to acknowledge those roots. I'd like
yes.
to move on to maybe take a look at some of the mud cloth. I'm going to share my screen here and bring up some pieces. I can just sort of file through them. And as you see a different image, if there's something in particular you want to
Yeah, this is mud
share.
cloth. Again, I have to go back to my grandmother because my grandmother was not just a storyteller and farmer, but she was also what do you call it? She was also an herbalist. She was sort of like the main doctor of the village, where mothers and their children will fill our compound at least, every morning, waiting for my grandmother's blessing and her advice about, herb and so forth. But on top of that, she also did dyeing, indigo dyeing. And that was very important because a lot of our ceremonial outfit were done with different herbs. And this plant, dyeing fabric with plants, is not just because the color or the texture alone, but also the herb itself. Because in Africa, we are highly spiritual, and we know that we are not the only living creature, moving creature around their spirit. So some of these fabrics are done for, a good manner to connect yourself at once with the surrounding and the spirit of the water, the spirit of the forest, and so forth. And also, some of these herbs are believed that if you sew fabric, if you sew outfit out of them because of the plant itself, that you are also protected from evil eyes and things like that. So there's a history behind all of these things. But mudcloth particularly, which you see right now, it was created by the Bamana woman. And it was created in such a way that one day a hunter man went to the forest and for several days he was not lucky to get any game. And so this one day he saw an antelope, some people call it a spirit, that guided the hunter man to the muddy pool. And the hunter man followed the antelope and thinking that, that's the muddy pool will be the end of the run. But when he walked into the muddy pool and he lost the antelope, and his whole entire outfit was darkened by the mud. So when he when he went home and his wife tried to wash this mud off of the cloth, and they couldn't because it was all stained on the fabric. And this was the beginning, the first idea of painting on fabric with clay. And today, I am also a founder of an organization called Ko-Falen. Ko-Falen means gift exchange. So in my Ko-Falen Tutoring Center, not only we teach our youngsters French and English, but we also teach them art, the art of storytelling and the art of making mudcloth, surface designing in general. And once a year, the children are honored with a diploma from Portland, Oregon, from our Ko-Falen executive board right here in Portland. So Ko-Falen program doesn't only help children in Mali, but across West Africa and also here in Portland, Oregon. And I'm also a ceramist. As you can see, many of my painting on the my ceramic platters reflect my childhood, where I come from, and my nostalgic memories are constantly being illustrated on my ceramic platters. So art making is, to me, it's a natural thing. It's a part of my life and continue to be part of my everyday life here in, not only here in Oregon, but in Mali. Once a year, I go to Mali and also teach people about the art of storytelling, drawing, illustrations, so many more. So that's what I've been doing here here and there for last 35 years. And my art, many of them symbolize mutual support. And you can see the bounding and the communal lifestyle and the mindfulness of other being around you. And nothing is a strange bedfellow to me. It's all the same. The teapot with the rooster right there is simple two-partner. It has nothing to see with why the rooster is on the back of an elephant. And depending on how you look at art, but the most important thing of being artist to me is how I use it in this new culture as not only my occupation, but also my way to continuously stay connected to where I come from, while I introduce my new home, people of my new home, to a different way of making art, and help them to think a little more about art than they have done it in their own culture. So art has been my guidance, my passport, my way, my happiness, my therapy, and everything. However, many people, many Black artists like me are still struggling regardless of the numerous work we do. And we still have lack of support. I really encourage people to continue supporting Black artists and continue buying their art, not only one time, over and over, so they can have a step ground to be able to survive in a culture that, you know, they are minorities. And this is so important. Back in my experience back in the 1980s, when I first came here, I spoke no English at all, no English. And, you know, my way of moving on my day-to-day life was my art and observation, because the language ability was not there. And now it's a little different. But sometimes when you first come here, you have a lot of support. But as time goes by, it becomes more and more difficult. And as you understand the culture more and more. So sometimes it's easier for someone who an African descent that was born here and grew up here than someone that migrate from, you know, African countries because they come from an open society where everyday conversation is stories, and which is actually a tool of counseling for the whole community, the whole society. But that's what you don't get here. So when you're here as an artist and you're a minority, you better focus on doing your art and hope that you will make a progress out of it. And that's why I was very quick to encourage supporting Black artists, because they do have a lot to say in their art. I encourage galleries to actually take more Black artists and show more Black artists. And I encourage art project to hire more Black artists. So you know, we get to, especially this moment is so important, so important. So anyone that knows artist life, you know how it's like. So can't hear you. So okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask a question if there was any relationship between your work and greater social justice movement.
Well, my work has always been that such a thing, I would say. It doesn't have to take a moment to develop art, but that it reflects that kind of thing, because I have always done art that have to see with people coming together, and especially my storytelling projects are always about that. One of the problems that we have that I personally experienced in this country is that when you are a person of color, it is very difficult for people to approach and actually get to know you directly. I've been here for 35 years, okay? And my wife is from Kansas, and she's white, of course. But face to face, I still see people asking her, how am I doing in certain way when I'm standing right there? And sometimes we don't realize that that is all a form to second-handed someone. And if we really want social justice to be done the right way, we need to stop fear and communicate with people directly. And even in the art field, this is also some of the struggle with Black artists, that they are heard from second-handedly, like someone talking, asking about him and so forth. I noticed that in the United States a lot, that people really don't take the effort to get to know a person of color. But if they're connected to someone else that is not a person of color, that person become their connector to the society, which I find that very undermining and very somewhat insulting. But it does exist in the United States, all over. I mean, my experience has been like that. And,
Absolutely. Yeah, it's almost like a comfort thing, like.
Yeah.
But you're exactly right. There should be direct communication, and that's how you learn. You got to be open. You may not have all the answers. You may be a little awkward in your approach, but
but
really,
yeah. But I
need
think
to take the time.
African American, many of my friends feel that way too. So
Yeah.
it is really something when we talk every day about social justice, and the only thing that make us connected to that is are things that just happen to strike Black Lives Matter. But people have been living under this stress and struggle for a long time. And that's why when Black Lives Matter came about, I was not hesitant to just go out there and show my solidarity, because I know we live in such a thing. When you are an African, you first come here, you don't understand things first, but as time goes by, you really start clearly seeing what goes on. And I felt like, I met people 35 years ago, but they still aren't close to me at all. But they like to know about me through other people. And in the art community, sometimes it's like that too. So as I encourage people to get to know people, especially a person of color, and just don't assume that people are criminals or they're whatever they are. I think by communicating and openness, you get to know people most. And that's why also I started a West African tea ceremony in my home. For last 35 years, the COVID now we don't do it, but the whole idea, it was because I noticed that people rather ask other people about me. They don't talk directly to me. And I don't know how you get to know who the person is by someone else's mouth. So that's why I started this tea party and sharing stories and issues that affect our human lives and that sort of thing. That's been successful for a long time.
Oh, that sounds really wonderful. Yeah. There's so many layers to pull back, and I'm so grateful that you took the time to share your experience. We only booked 30 minutes, but this definitely could go on for quite some time. But I did want to give you an opportunity, just in closing, if you wanted to maybe give us an idea of how we can find out more about you. I know you're on Instagram as Baba Wague.
Yes.
Do you have a website, or do you want to tell us about how you follow up?
Pardon?
You want to tell us more about how we can follow up?
Yeah, I'm Baba Wague on Facebook and Instagram, and also my website is www.wordpress.com. And also you can go to my organization website, which is Ko-Falen.org. Ko-Falen is KOFALEN.org. So you can see my work and my art classes and educational programs in Africa, in Mali, and also events that we do here in Portland as well. Ko-Falen means gift exchange. I used to take about 20, 25 people every year to Mali from Oregon or United States, and they work with artists from Mali or West African countries. And therefore, the name Ko-Falen comes from that gift exchange. But now with the problem in the northern part of Mali and COVID, everything has been in halt.
Yeah, that's very convoluted mess, and I'm sorry to hear about that.
Hey, I'm sorry too.
But you are getting ready to head out, aren't you?
Yep, I am getting ready to go out. My organization decided to do some humanitarian help to about 20 different families, very, very poor families that are going through difficulties in Mali right now, both politically, and the country is not very stable right now. So therefore, I am going to be buying about 100 kilo of rice and 100 kilo of millet for each family, for 20 family.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So
yeah.
That's my reason to travel out and also teach some storytelling.
Well, that's wonderful. We wish you the best trip.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All of your prolific work and your body of work, and really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us. I'm going to sign off in a minute, but I just wanted to bring up the again, the sponsors, and wanted to talk about our partners. So we'd like to thank Oregon Folklife Network and the Museum of Natural and Cultural History for making Oregon Black Artist Spotlight series possible. This is Andrea from West African Cultural Arts Institute signing off. Thank you so much, everybody, and thanks so much, Baba Inike.
Baba Inike. Okay, thank you.